how the technology, generative AI, how it is being used today and how it will evolve in the future, especially with respect to the patent function in organizations like Oronite and in the enterprise. John, over to you for your crystal ball gazing for this particular.
I think obviously one of the useful opportunities that exist are niche-based industries. For us or for pharmaceutical companies, for example, it would be very useful to integrate chemical structure. And that's something that, from what I understand from Samir, is a work in progress right now. So being able to not only interpret chemical structure from the prior art, from non-patent literature, but also to integrate those chemical structures into patent drafts. And so that's going to be something that will certainly greatly benefit chemical companies, pharma companies. Things that are going to be very industry specific, I think are going to be a great benefit to those industries. And right now, that's a work in progress. I think LLMs have gotten pretty good at obviously interpreting text, providing answers, and giving pretty good first pass at a first draft. But being able to integrate those aspects, I think, will be the next step that would be useful. I think also another thing is going to be being able to pull from, I hate to call it boilerplate information, a number of different aspects from, for example, previous application drafts from your company and integrating those aspects into the first draft. Typical ranges of components or typical, in our space, typical base oils that are used in finished lubricants, those sort of things. Being able to go out, pull that language in and get an even better first draft of a patent application. So those are just a couple things that I can think of that would greatly benefit specifically us, but I'm sure that there's probably other examples that can be given in other industries that LLMs aren't necessarily good at today, but hopefully will improve in the future.
Yes, absolutely. These are some of the most active areas of development and improvements for IP authors. So for example, as I was showing very briefly, we have added an antibody region extractor to IP author. By providing an antibody sequence, for example, we will have all the extracted regions like the framework regions and the CDRs and so on. So all of this information is automatically fed into the patent drafting or the search modules. So therefore, the downstream work gets done as effectively as possible. So you are relying on, we are basically taking all these interpretations and feeding it. Similarly, chemical structures, marker structures, these are some of the other improvements that we are making to the platform very rapidly and hope to bring it into the platform over the next quarter or so. In addition, the style matching, that is something that we have really made some progress with, where we are now able to really adapt and create style guides automatically using generative AI and then use them for downstream drafting purposes. So you may not know, or you may have an inkling. Some companies are different. Like some companies have very elaborate, very detailed guidelines for how each section, each line of a patent application should look for their own patent applications. But others may not have such style guides. We have been able to create such style guides for our clients using generative AI and then use those style guides in terms of adapting the patent application to those style guides. That process will get smoother, more intuitive, and more streamlined over the coming months as LLMs improve, as our platform improves as well. So that is really going to be very exciting because now you're not going to just, there was this gee-whiz element to patent drafting using generative AI a couple of years ago, where you could give some language and generate what looks like a patent claim. But now it's getting more real, where the patent claim looks like a patent claim you would have drafted if you have been writing patent applications in this area for a long time. So it's going to be fundamentally more interesting and more powerful as we go here. John, so from your perspective, one of the questions I always ask all the experts, such as yourself, is where do we think we are? Like, are we at the beginning of the internet where we were in, I don't know, the year 2000 or something like that, where we were using Netscape and stuff like that? Or are we somewhat further down the road with respect to this technology if we compare it for internet time?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think obviously it wasn't until a couple of years ago that there was obviously a big breakthrough in terms of LLMs. And then another step change with one of the more recent OpenAI models, I think provided another step change. My personal view right now is that probably any gains from here for quite some time are going to be incremental in nature. I think we're probably not at the beginning, but maybe somewhere in the middle. But I think probably any gains from here are going to be somewhat incremental. I think there's obviously going to be some, I know that you're working on structures, you're working on style, that sort of thing. Those are going to be tremendous benefits for those niche industries. And so there'll be maybe some step changes with those. But yeah, I think overall, we've made the big jumps with LLMs, and I think any sort of progress from here on out is going to be, at least for a while, is going to be incremental in nature.
Sounds good. I still feel that would allow us time to incorporate the technology into our workflows. So that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's
You may hold a different view since you're ingrained in it every single day, but from an outsider's perspective, I think that's where
No,
I'm
I
at right
actually
now.
agree with you in terms of the overall, because the LLMs themselves seem to have run into the limit of how much training data they have available and things like that.